What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Hello out there in Archaeology Podcast land. This is Dr. Alan Garfinkel. I'm the president and founder of the California Rock Art Foundation. And what we do is we identify, evaluate, manage, and conserve rock art both in Alta California and in Baja California. We conduct field trips, we have trainings, exercise, we do research, and in every way possible, we try to preserve, protect, and coordinate treasures of Alta and Baja California rock art, of which there are many and diverse. We also work closely with Native Americans and partner with them to recognize and protect sacred sites. So for more info about the fabulous California Rock Art Foundation, you can go to carockart.org. Also, I'm open to give me a call, 805-312-2261. We would welcome sponsorship or underwriting, helping us to defray the costs of our podcasts, and also membership in California Rock Art Foundation. And of course, donations, since we are a 501c3 nonprofit scientific and educational corporation. God bless everyone out there in podcast land.
You're listening to the Rock Art Podcast. Join us every week for fascinating tales of rock art, adventure, and archaeology. Find our contact info in the show notes and send us your suggestions.
Hey out there in Archaeology Podcast land, this is Dr. Alan Garfinkel for episode 106. We're going to have Elena Mateos coming in from Spain. She goes by Elena Mateos on the internet. She is a PhD, a doctorate in rock art and the rock art of Mexico in the jungle, talking about the connection between the natural world and the supernatural world. She is such a resource and so exciting. You don't want to miss this one, gang. Hey out there in Rock Art Podcast, Archaeology Podcast land. This is your host, Dr. Alan Garfinkel, and we are blessed and honored to have a astounding young woman. Her name is Dr. Elena Mateos. Am I pronouncing that right, Elena?
Well, yeah, my real name is Elena Mateos, but I go by Elena Mateos in every social media. So whatever.
Oh, that's nice. And Elena is coming to us from Spain, and she'll be talking about her exciting adventures in rock art research in the Mexican jungle, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So this is an exciting adventure for us. We've had a number of individuals from all over the world over the course of I think this is number 106 for us in terms of our episodes. But I always get excited when we have a chance to speak to some of our international colleagues. And after reading a short bio on Elena, I think this is going to be a phenomenally interesting adventure. The way we usually kick this off, Elena, is we let you talk a bit about your bio, your background. How did you ever get involved in the study of archaeology, Native Americans, and rock art?
Well, long story short, I was living in Madrid and I was working and studying at the same time. I was 23 years old. Honestly, I was tired. So I got a scholarship for Mexico in which I was going to be able just to study for the first time in my life. And so I went there. And I discovered the National Autonomous University in Mexico. I was stunned by it. I fell in love with the country, the people, landscapes, everything. As a mountain lover and a rock art lover, I had always wanted to study rock art. So I started asking around, and even though my internship was going to last 6 months only, it was during my bachelor degrees, I ended up being in Mexico for 11 years.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Where is that National Autonomous University located?
In Mexico City.
It is in Mexico City. Okay. Very nice. Do they have a very active program in the study of rock art, or is that unusual? Because I know all over the world it's a little bit different from place to place.
I couldn't say it's unusual, but maybe in all my program, in the history program during my master's degree, I was the only thesis dedicated to rock art.
Okay.
And during my doctorate degree, I will say that we were 2 people, maybe 3. I'm not sure, but no, it's not so common, I would say.
Not so common. And your background is also in art history, isn't it?
Yes. My bachelor's degree is in art history. So maybe that is why I'm so focused, or iconography lover.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. I think that I don't have a background in art history, but I have a passion for the understanding of religion, and also for the understanding of, as you were saying, the relationship between the natural world and, let's say, the supernatural world, or the world of the celestial or divine kingdom, seeing the way that things connect and how that pre-literate people viewed the natural environment as sentient, as alive, and having agency, which is rather remarkable. And I know that for a time, I'd say that the West was rather skeptical of that view. But I think what's happening is physicists and other scientists are coming to an understanding that there is a deep and abiding and scientific basis for that understanding. Do you agree?
Yeah, that is totally what I hope I get to do during my doctoral thesis, because I prepare an iconographic analysis thoroughly. And through that investigation, quality investigation and quantity investigation, I came up with a solution for the answer. Why did they paint, And I think that this is what you have just mentioned is crucial to my investigation and to my heart. It's very close to my heart, honestly.
So tell us where your research was conducted. You said there's a particular mountain range or a part of the jungle that attracted you, correct?
Back in 2009, when I first studied a place located in the area of the Popocatépetl mountain, it's a huge volcano close to Mexico City.
Okay.
It's 5,600 meters high over the sea level. I don't know feet. I think it's
that's about that. If you times each meter is about 3 feet, so we're talking about 15,000 feet.
Yeah, it's a huge mountain.
That's huge.
That is huge. And not only is it huge, it's also amazing because Popocatépetl means the mountain that has smoke, So it can be seen from everywhere. It's an active volcano. So I fell in love with that mountain. The first time I ever saw that, I cried, honestly. That was my experience. Oh, yeah. So I wanted to study rock art that was close to the mountain. So I first studied a place called Texcal Pintado. Texcal is Nahuatl and means like rock wall. Pintado is Spanish and it means painted. So it could mean like painted rock wall. In that place, I discovered a rock shelter with more than 100 motifs, all painted in white from the post-classic period. And I conducted that research based on iconography and the relationship between the paintings and the ceremonies that were present in some calendarical codex. Yeah, so that was my first approach.
What would those have dated to? Because for those that don't understand the chronology for Mesoamerica.
Oh, yeah, from the post-classic period, we're talking about around the 1000 Años Day AD to maybe when the Spaniards went to Mexico. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so that was one of the last prehistoric periods, correct?
Well, it's not totally prehistoric because they did have codex.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. They had the writing. Now, Are the codices translated per se, or they're interpreted, correct?
Well, we have some different codex. We have pre-Hispanic codex that were interpreted or explained to the monks at some point, you know. So there are annotations. Yeah, there are annotations in some codex, and they are very helpful when it comes to understanding the relationship with the deities and the underworld and everything. So I think that through the analysis of paintings, the analysis of motifs, and through the interpretations that very intelligent authors like Edward Seller made at the beginning of the 20th century, we can understand a lot of iconography. And the rock art is not very rich in iconography, surprisingly, but it's very precise and it's always related to the gods of the water, the gods of the mountains, and everything that keeps things going on, you know, raining happening, life happening. So yeah, it's very interesting.
So in the images that were white, what were the depictions of? Did they mirror the elements of a codices, or were they more enigmatic in terms of having various elements or animal human figures? Which was it?
Okay, now we are talking about Texcal Pintado, which is my first investigation in the master's degree, during the master's degree. And in that place, they all resemble codex. Yeah, we have deities, we have human figures, we have processions and elements of ritual elements, you know, people doing things together. And we also have a lot of moons, which could be interpreted as the stars and suns. Yeah.
So you could almost read the rock art in that way, could you not, or no?
Oh, I felt that I could. Maybe I was mistaken, but I totally could.
Of course. but because it was so rich and so codified, they talk about some of the rock art that I work with is far more enigmatic and mysterious and difficult to understand.
And you don't have historical notes to go for and to consult. Yeah, yours is totally different. Yeah.
But you have the history and plus the codices. And
in this case, we are lucky.
And were these related to the Aztec people, the Nahuatl?
Yeah, Nahuatl culture. Yeah, it was created by them. Maybe not the Aztec, because the Aztecs were like a small tribe that belonged to that huge Nahuatl culture. But some other groups that were living in that area. So that was my master's investigation and my first approach to Mexican rock art. And then I went crazy, or went bananas, I think you say in your language.
And what did you conclude in your master's investigation about that particular site?
Well, I came to the conclusion that the rock art was related with some ceremonial parties that can be traced on codexes, and mostly related to the deities of the water, and to thank the death for the maintenance of life in the real world, you know, in the human world.
So very clearly a metaphor, almost like a visual prayer, as I put it, a prayer.
That is perfectly described. Yeah. Perfect. That's right.
And it had to do with water, and it had to do with life, and it had to do with, I presume, death as well.
Yeah, because, you know, in Mexican cultures, in Nahuatl culture, they believe that water was created in the center inside of the mountains. The mountains were containers for water, and inside of those mountains, the death will go, and they will become the masters of life somehow. They could push life out to the mountains, you know. For example, if you were hit by lightning during a storm, you will die, and then you will become a Tlaloque, which is a server of the god Tlaloc, and you will ride the clouds, so the rain could reach different regions of the area. So yeah, that is very beautiful. The relationship between life and death is so beautiful. I'm in love with that. It's very different from our cosmovision.
Right. What elevation was that particular cave, that rock shelter that you studied there on that mountain? The first one for your master's thesis.
It was in a place called Hueyapan. It's very close to the Popocatépetl volcano. And it was situated in a canyon.
In a canyon, yeah. So after you did your master's thesis, and what year was that? Do you remember?
2011. Well, it was 12 years ago. I came back to Spain. Yeah, I came back to Spain and tried to find a job here. Didn't succeed. So I went back to Mexico and started my PhD degree. Yeah, I was accepted in the National Autonomous University again, and that was a gift, of course.
Great. And so then you began your PhD research.
Yeah, I began in 2013.
I see. Let's hold it there. That'll be the first segment of the 3-segment interview. Mm-hmm. During the next segment, we'll move along and find out about your PhD efforts. See you on the flip-flop, gang. Thanks.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Welcome back, gang. We're here at the Archaeology Podcast Network. We're doing the Rock Art Podcast, and we're with Dr. Elena, soon to be, and she's going to talk about her PhD dissertation research. Elena, kick it off.
Okay. So after having finished my master's degree, I decided that it was high time I was investigating a vast area, because when you focus on only one shelter, you don't see the whole picture. So I decided that I was going to study in a place called Tepoztlán, which is situated about 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers far from Mexico City, southeast, so in the state of Morelos. And I decided that because during my previous investigation, I had seen the mountains of Tepoztlán, and I thought, oh, those mountains look pretty special to me. So there must be rock art in there, So I went there and I did discover several places, and I thought I was going to find more. Little did I know that I was going to find more than 30 places in those mountains.
Wow.
Yeah, that hadn't been previously recorded.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did those places differ from your master's? Were they also similar, or were they very different?
Some of them are very similar, whereas others are very different. This is very interesting.
Please.
I found that I am there, and I find that there are a lot of places.
Tell us a bit about these images.
Yeah, there are many different types of places, I found places from different periods of time, different magnitude, different height, different size, and I find places, so I need to come up with a solution for that. So I realized that there are some different places. I call one of them locals, which are the places in which the motifs are very small, about 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters as much. The human figure is hardly ever represented, whereas there are other places big. And when I say big, I mean like 6-7 meters, like the Escalpintado bigs. And
wow.
In those, the human figure is really important. They reach the meter, in size. And there are a lot of motifs. And more importantly, there are many periods of time in which those places were repainted and painted and painted again. So I would say that there are two main different type of places, local and the ones that I called monumental places.
I see. Now, did both of those, were they more abstract or were they more realistic? Were they easier to read or more difficult to read?
I would say that it depends on the period of time they come from. So in order to be able to determine the period of time in which the art was created, I came to other places that were in the area. For example, Chalcatzingo. Chalcatzingo is a very important archaeological site that has been studied over the time by many super amazing investigators like Michael Smith, Alex Apostolides, or now it is being investigated by Julio Amador. I don't know if you know him.
Name is familiar, by the way, yeah.
Oh, his work in rock art is amazing, honestly. I totally admire his work. So in Chalcatzingo, there are some other archaeological things that can be traced back in time. So I took from Chalcatzingo some of the motifs in order to give a period of time or a chronology to the vast amount of different types, styles, and motifs that I discovered in my area. So that is what I did, because depending on the period of time in which the art was created, the iconography varies a lot, and the type of motifs are very different.
And what did you conclude from your research in terms of the function of these sites or their ages and the character of what they're trying to communicate?
Oh, that is a very beautiful question, because I think that only when you are related with the mountains and nature, you are able to really understand how important water it is, So what I realized is that it didn't matter whether the places were big, monumental, or locals. The most important thing that they were related to were either a cavity in the walls, a source of water, either seasonal or perennial. For example, in the local small places, you will find canyons, dogs, moons, and stars, mostly. Those are the most represented motifs. But they are always really close to a source of water, really close to them. So when you are walking in the mountains and you are thirsty and it is hot, and you find this perennial water, of course you want to for this place to be visited by the gods that are allowing that water to exist in that place. In my opinion, the selection of the places was not based on the quality of the rock, for example, which is mostly hard and horrible rock to paint in. It's not, a plain wall. But they were selected based on that, on the presence of water or cavities, because in the Mexican Nahuatl religion, it was thought that cavities allow people to communicate with the underworld that I mentioned before. So you could ask them to be there and to bring more water.
So these cavities are what we might call portals and
Yes.
connections, tethers, conduits to another world. And this was a means of connecting to the supernatural beings, correct?
Yeah, it's totally correct. Even today, there are los tiemperos. Los tiemperos, for example, are ritual specialists that go to those cavities and leave an offering so that the rain is going to come.
Wow.
For example, and this is done every year in El Popocatépetl, Vulcano, in Tepoztlán, in other places, and in San Andrés de la Cal, which is a town in Tepoztlán, in the municipality of Tepoztlán.
Yeah.
They do the aires representation is like the winds rituals, yes, because they do believe that in the cavities you can find winds that have power, good or evil. So every year they bring offering to those winds in the cavities.
Are there any ceremonies or dances or other things that are done in the nearby cities or towns that relate to these particular powers or deities or associations?
Yeah, I would say that when they bless the seed, they go to the mountains. For example, in Tepoztlán, there is a very particular mountain called Tlacatepetl, which means the mountain of the men or the hill of the men.
Okay.
And in the neighborhood of Santa Cruz, they believe that the Tlacatepetl is a person, has personality, and that mountain is taking care of the neighborhood. So every year, again in May, it is the same period of time for all the ceremonies, when the rain is about to come, they bless the seeds. But before doing that, they climb the mountain and they dress a cross, and decorate the cross with flowers, and there are a lot of dances. For days and days, they dance and they conduct a ceremony in el barrio de la Santa Cruz. Yeah, it's a very beautiful ceremony. It used to be in my neighborhood, so I enjoy that.
Is that a syncretic phenomenon, so that they're joining the native ideology with Catholicism because of the cross, or not?
Well, the cross is present in the pre-Hispanic religion as well. So
okay.
I don't know what comes first, if a reinterpretation of the cross maybe, or maybe they are using cross different interpretations or different meanings for that. But of course, the religion is present. The church, in every neighborhood has a church, and the church conducts a lot of ceremonies, and everything is done around the church. So it's like the temple, Yeah, so I do think that there are many things that have been integrated together in terms of Nahuatl religion and Catholic religion, of course.
That's very fascinating to me. I'm Catholic, and I've been studying Mesoamerican religion. In fact, we have a book coming out that just came out this month, and it's about the iconicity of the Uto Aztecans, sort of reconstructing it from its beginnings and 4,000, 5,000 years ago, and moving from Eastern California to the American Southwest, into the high cultures of Mexico. And we look at it through symbolism, specifically emphasizing the role of the serpent vis-a-vis how that is depicted and used as a conduit for life, regeneration, and water.
And do you have a serpent with horns?
In the American Southwest, yes. In the American Southwest, they have a serpent that has horns. The serpent that we have in Eastern California is decorated with quail plumes. Quail plumes.
Oh, my. Like Quetzalcoatl. Yes.
Right, right. It's sort of a headpiece. And you would probably be tickled to read a bit about what we've done. And I'll be happy to send you a copy of the book. And then we have another one relating to this animal-human figures. It's surprising, more than surprising, it's gobsmacking, if you want to use that word, that I'm in Bakersfield right now, which is in the bottom of the Southern San Joaquin Valley in what you might call Southern California. I'm only an hour or two away from the Western Mojave Desert. There's an area there called Coso, and I've been visiting it for about 50 years. And in a canyon there, the major canyon that's available to public visitation, there is a panel, a picture of what we feel is a communication, a storyboard of the creation of the world to the ancient Uto-Aztecans. It's similar to the creation story among the Huichol and also amongst the Aztecs or the Nahuatl. It has to do with the four pilgrims and the lunar goddess. And
the caves.
Yeah, the lunar goddess and the individuals who are going to the mountain to create the sun. The story goes that they do that when sacrifices themselves, and after they do that, the sun is not tethered high enough in the sky, and they've got to push up the sky. So there's a depiction of these 4 or 5 individuals pushing up clouds, and they form a cloud serpent, if you will, or rain. Again, rain. But that's all on this small sort of triangular boulder there in Little Petroglyph Canyon. Now,
that is amazing.
That same creation story is also in southern Texas in a huge panel, a painting that's done by Carolyn Boyd. It's a book on the White Shaman Cave. And she is the one that sort of inspired me to begin to understand Mesoamerican theology and cosmology. And I've been publishing with a gentleman who teaches at Guanajuato University. His name is Tirthamuka Abadai. He has written a couple of articles and now this, 70,000 word book. So I've been down to Mexico several times, mainly to the peninsula, but also now to the mainland to be a guest scholar with him.
Oh my!
So, and my esposa para siempre is a Tejana mamacita. So she's from Texas, and I'm learning everything I can about Mesoamerican culture. And of course, I'm a passionate Catholic that lives in Bakersfield, where the majority of the people are Mexican. We've got more than 50% Mexican. And when you go to the church, they have one service for English, and I don't know, 5 or 6 for this in Spanish service. So there's tremendous Mexican Spanish culture all around me, which is fascinating and wonderful. And I never thought I would be as connected to Mexico and Mesoamerica as I am, and continuously learning so much. I think it also relates to my study of Guadalupana, the Virgen de Guadalupe, and understanding the significance of that.
Nana, the Madrecita, of course.
Yes. Well, we've used up the second one.
Yes. It just flew.
It flew by.
Yeah.
See you in the flip-flop, gang. We'll go to the third.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Welcome back, gang. This is Dr. Alan Garfinkel with the third segment on the Rock Art Podcast with our blessed Elena Mateos. She is a renowned scholar and someone who has worked hard at studying rock art in the wonderful country of Mexico. So where are you now in your journey, Elena? And what do you feel you have learned from your studies, and where do we take it from here?
Well, I've learned that how important it has always been for humans to be communicating with nature, and that religion and magic is present in every single rock that we can find. Now I'm living in a small town in Sevilla, in Spain. I am looking for rock art in here. I haven't found any. I'm sure I will at some point. But no, I am looking forward to translating my PhD thesis into English and writing articles. And I am dedicated myself to study English and to become a teacher, an English teacher. So that is what I do right now. But of course, I am always reading about rock art and loving rock art and listening to your podcast, by the way. It's amazing. I love it.
That is wonderful, Elena.
The archaeology of emotion just touched my heart. Come on, amazing.
I'm so blessed and honored that we have an international following. That's just amazing. It's terrific. So, if you put your finger on the pulse of what you've found out in your PhD studies, give us some of the key takeaways, some of the most astounding or interesting discoveries that you've made on what the rock art means, how it functions, how it relates to the natural world, what you found most enticing and wonderful about it.
Well, aside from its own existence, which is amazing, I found that in Mexico, rock art is everywhere. Everywhere. Probably the first place that was painted when humans reached the region, and the last rock art that you can find if you went to Mexico tomorrow will be the one made the day before tomorrow. You know, rock art is present because people have a huge and beautiful relationship with nature that we have lost here in Europe, I have to say. Regarding the rock art in Tepoztlán and in the region of Tepoztlán and for example, Chacatín or Texcalpindado, all those regions, what I think is that it is very important to note that there are many different places. You have local places, small places in which small rituals were probably conducted by farmers, by locals. And we have big places, huge places, which probably had served as ritual places because you can hold a huge crowd of people in there, you know? And the paintings are amazing, stunning, bigger. They contain scenes instead of just motifs or tiny motifs. So I think that rock art was a generalized practice forever, I would say, until probably when the Spanish people arrived. I'm not so sure, because after the Spanish people arrived, you can find that they have horses and people on horses in the rock art. So they continue painting afterward. So I think that rock art is result of the communication with the environment, the natural environment, the resignification of places that have water, or have a threshold of communicating, or possibility of communicating with the underworld. And then you want to paint in there because in Mexico, they thought that things had the essence, or contained the essence of the gods. So when you paint something, the god is there. When you make a sculpture, the god is in that sculpture. So you are like trapping or capturing the essence of the gods and putting that essence inside of the thing that you are creating. So when they were painting in places where there is water, oh my God, there is life in there, in the dry period of time, you will find water if you go there. Or where there are cavities and places of communication with those forces, you paint in there. So you somehow make the god come back to that place. So I believe that from time to time, they will take some offerings in there to the local places and to the monumental ones. The difference between those two will be that in the monumental ones, there will be conducted huge ceremonies. That's my take. That's what I think.
So what you're saying, which is interesting, is that the painting of rock art is in one way also a way of communicating to the deities to bring them to that place and to help reinstall, reassure, bless the place and the needs of the people that were there. That is precisely what I think. And that's fascinating. That's a very wonderful and emotionally fulfilling way of thinking about these places. It's also much simpler than the way that the anthropologists have
don't you feel the divine presence with? Yeah,
of course. I call it. You've got the Koso glow. You've got the glow when you're there, and it sticks with you for a couple weeks afterwards. When you've got the mojo that hits you when you're there in that place. And it's the same way when you see rock art in many different places. You understand or get a feeling or a sensitivity that you're connected to another world, another place.
It definitely makes the space special.
Yeah, it's an emotional experience. It emotes. And I had Dr. Tirtha, he called those two editions, his episodes, the emotional, I think he called it emotional archaeology, or
the archaeology of emotion.
Of emotions. And no one talks about that very much, because it's a matter of when you view these images and when you're there in this place, it has a very spiritual feeling, a spiritual meaning, a fulfillment. There's something very supernatural about being there. Am I correct?
Yeah, totally. Even for a non-religious person, I am not a religious person. I have never been, but I can totally recall being on the mountains, for example, for a whole exhausting day, looking for rock art, I became a volunteer in search and rescue and firefighting. And even today, for example, we could be fighting a wildfire in the mountains of Tepoztlán. And, the heat and the dust, and you couldn't barely breathe, And people wouldn't say, oh, God, help me. They were asking Tlaloc to bring the rain. Even today, So even people that I know by a fact that they are not religious, as neither am I, that is something that will happen every time. You will ask for a biggest and strongest force to help you. It comes at no surprise to me that the rock art was painted in such significant places in which life is present in a magical way, because you don't get to understand why. In the top of the mountain, you can find a source of water, clean water, fresh water, in the middle of February, which is really hot in there. The winds are really dry and everything is on fire. And in April, when you are sweating and then you're super tired and you find that water, you are not even surprised to see rock art surrounding that area. For example, there are other walls that are beautiful walls to paint. I love painting. I have my own oleos, and I love paintings. I love painting, oil painting and stuff. But when I saw that walls, that perfect wall to paint, and no paint was there, at first I would ask myself, why people? Why choosing this horrible place to paint? When you could choose this other one. People, what is wrong with you? Well, after serious consideration, I realized that the water was the key.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not the canvas they're looking for, but the environmental associations, the life in the place, not...
The place is alive.
The place is alive.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And it has the God in it, The God is there.
The God is there.
Yeah, what makes life able to exist is precisely that the God is visiting from time to time.
The deities are there.
Maybe you have this beautiful canvas, with such amazing scenery, or that can be seen from very far away, but you are not interested in that because 100 meters away from that, you have a tiny, tiny hole with horrible, irregular walls, and you choose to paint in there. And that is amazing. That is amazing. Mm-hmm.
And that is because there's life there.
Yeah, there is life there. The deities are there. They are visiting.
Deities are there.
Mm-hmm. So you want them to be there. You want them not to forget that place.
So it's a memorable place. And you want to commemorate that visit with the imagery that you emblazon on the walls of the rock art.
Yeah, I somehow don't believe that this commemoration is time of invocation.
Invocation.
Yes, when you paint the signs, symbols, or the motifs that are related to that god, precise god, for example, the face of Tlaloc, the moon, the deer, etc., you are telling them, hey, come here. Do not forget this place, okay? Hey, come back. Let's talk. I will give you offerings. Come on, come back here, Because when you have depicted those images, you are... Yeah,
it's an invitation.
In my opinion, it is, yeah.
I find that to be fascinating and interesting. Yes. Yeah. So by capturing these images and blazoning them upon the walls of the particular shelter or cave or what have you, you're inviting those gods and goddesses into that place. You want to have the power remain. You want to have the power grow in that place.
Yeah. That's my what I propose in my PhD thesis.
That's your takeaway.
Yeah, that's totally my takeaway. Yeah, I do believe that because after having been there, sitting, contemplating those places for many, many years, and you sit there, you need water, you are there, and you are, oh my God, this is an amazing place because I feel fresh and I feel a wind in here. I can be refreshed here. It's a special place. It has something special. Maybe it's not the views, maybe it's not the wall, but it's something else, that cannot be explained. And of course, water is there, and not in every case, but cavities are in there. So either water or cavities are present in there. So either you can communicate because through those cavities, your voice is going to reach the deities that are hidden in the inside of the mountains.
Yes. They're the conduits.
Happy because you have water.
Yes. Because you've got the cracks in the rocks.
Yeah.
you've got the holes in the rocks or the protuberances or the cavities. They're entrances into the underworld. And in turn, it's the connection between the natural and the supernatural.
Yeah, so basically after 10 years of investigating, I came to the conclusion that we are thirsty and we are happy when we see water and we want to celebrate those places.
I love it.
So yeah.
Well, I think that's the takeaway.
We need to come back to ourselves.
Yes. Elena, God bless you. Thanks for sharing your reflections and your wonder and your passion for rock art. See you on the flip-flop, gang.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rock Art Podcast with Dr. Alan Garfinkel and Chris Webster. Find show notes and contact information at www.arcpodnet.com/rockart. Thanks for listening, and thanks for sharing this podcast with your family and friends. This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Cultural Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.